Good morning, beautiful souls. I understand we're live. You're live with Jo and Becky, and I'm just checking. Can you let us know that you can hear us, please?
Hello, everyone. You can check my sound as well.
Oh, dear.
It is very early where Jo is. Hi, Sandy. Thanks for joining us.
It is very early where Jo is. Yep, I'm just every.
Oh, you're checking the different ones.
I know, we're just getting ourselves sorted, guys. This is our first time doing a dual live stream. So hopefully there's no more echoes. So let me have a look. Hello, Squirrel Sniper. Welcome this morning. I just want to check that you can all hear us. I haven't had a 555 yet from anyone.
That was my fault. So yes, we are live on my YouTube as well.
Great. You can hear us perfectly. Great. Fantastic. So I'm just going to quickly say hi. Jillian, Sandy Christmas, Lotus. Hello, Lotus. Hello, beautiful bowler. I want to thank Hippie and Hippie for being our moderator today. And Holistic might turn up as well in a little bit as if she has time. Jen Chan, hello. Patty June, hello.
Wonderful to see all my friends joining and new friends as well. So thank you.
Okay, so we're going to be talking a little bit about light language and our own take on our own spiritual journeys. If you've got any questions, pop them in capitals so that we can identify them as they scroll past. But first of all, let me introduce Becky Halia. And Becky and I have known each other for just about a year, I think. What do you think? How long that we've known each other, Becky?
Time stops having much meaning once you connect, and so I sense the soul memories of how long I've known you. So I'm not sure about Earth time. Maybe a year.
Maybe about a year on Earth time. Yes,
it feels longer.
Oh, absolutely, particularly when we start communicating in light language. But would you, so if you would give a little bit of a rundown of your spiritual journey, how you came to speak light language, and anything you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Well, first, I'm just feeling I tend to go off of my intuition, and just so you guys know, I tend to be more of one who feels a lot and knows things, and so I'm feeling maybe just to set the stage with a little bit of light language to get us all started and on the same page. If that makes sense. So kohole isha hlokara kaskinotea. Shinsha otan devore uvoshkinye so injate sokote. I'm overjoyed and with happiness to be here. Irukule inshkale le esoni safala le ikutunda te karatia. Shor unataye sasa asai shakunya iskale kia natata taishe. And I'm very grateful to share this time with my dear friend Jo and all of you. So for my journey, let's see. I came into the spiritual journey. I guess it's hard to pinpoint one exact moment, right? Sometimes, but I would say in my 40s is when I started. I'm still in my 40s. But I ended up getting really sick with Lyme disease, and I got sick repeatedly with Lyme disease. I kept getting it, but I got so sick, I ended up kind of expanding my awareness into what the different type modalities of healing would be. And I think that was really when it started for me. So not light language exactly, but that's what started me shifting from being a hardcore scientist into expanding and checking out more alternative methods of healing and thinking and being. And so somewhere on that journey, a few years in, I was just, and I learned to start trusting my inner wisdom and my guidance by getting sick. And so I think that really helped me once I started getting more into the spiritual journey, is because I ended up healing myself with herbs and supplements and essential oils and Reiki and lots of other things from the Lyme disease. And so I learned to trust my intuition with my own health, which is a good way to gain confidence and learn that trust. Because I think that's one of the pivotal moments of key factors on your journey, is learning to trust the information you're getting. And so because I did it with my own health, it was very obvious to me. And then later I started getting more into spiritual, expanding more into thinking about the soul and thinking about spirit guides. I read some books on regression, and books would just fall off the library shelves in front of me, right? As they do. I got my first oracle cards. I kept being guided to go outside at night, barefoot, like for the whole year, just outside grounding. And then I started finding myself singing and humming to myself, kind of chanting. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but it just felt right to do it. So looking back on it, I think the singing and the humming, the toning, was my very first light language, and I didn't even realize it. And I also realized all of those pieces, going outside under the stars, being barefoot, and that singing and humming I was doing a lot of, it was all raising my vibration. And that was really important. And I learned to go with it, right? And so that was really the first part. The first time I did grow up in a Christian faith, kind of old time Pentecostal holy roller churches. And so I was familiar with speaking in tongues, but I never did it as a child. My parents did, but I never did. And so I was familiar with that, but I'd also kind of put that to the side, right? I didn't have any thoughts about it. It just happened.
Excuse me, my light has died.
What just died?
There we go. The light. Something is interfering with the light. Just turned it off on me. I beg your pardon. Please continue. Please
continue. That happens. And so I ended up having a friend on my journey, and she spoke light language. And sometimes we would chat fairly regularly, and she spoke light language sometimes while she was talking to me. And I could feel it inside of me, right? Like after a while, I could start feeling it, like it was almost like a pressure building up, and like I'd want to, but it was sitting there, and I was probably scared or nervous about getting it wrong. All those things you go through before you're speaking light language. And I remember commenting to her one day, I was like, do you think I might speak light language soon? And she's like, yeah, maybe soon, but not yet. And I said, okay. And then it was the next day, I said the same thing again. I was like, I think it might be about time. that I'll be speaking light language? She said, no, I don't think so. And I think it was because she's like, no, that I got stubborn. I was like, oh, yes, I am. And it just burst out. And it was so cool because we then had a 30-minute conversation in light language. And that's not how it goes for everyone. Like it can, sometimes folks are very fluid immediately. And then sometimes, you know, it's a 6-month period where they're just doing a tiny little bit, or they're just repeating the same phrases over and over. But that's not how it was for me. It was a full-on waterfall, and we were just chatting and catching up, and you could feel, I mean, there was laughter and tears, and you could feel our souls were talking to one another and just catching up with like, oh, how's your journey going? And, you know, all those things. And so I would say that has continued for me. That's the method in which I communicate with others in light language. It's very personal. It's not just channeling somebody else. I'm actually channeling me. I'm channeling all of my multidimensional soul at different times. And so for me, it's a very personal experience. And I love it so much because it just, like, it's really cool to have all these different versions of myself all at once, and to be able to experience different parts of them and let them experience what it's partially like to be human too, right? So and it helps me be connected to more of my star families. So to myself, but also to my star families, and remember and feel all those different frequencies. So it's to me, I love it so much. And I speak so many dialects because I am so connected to lots of my different soul aspects. And so whichever one is needed comes through for like the other person, say clients or friends. Sometimes friends have said I'm like a radio station. You just turn the dial.
Yes.
There's a different version.
Me too. And can you explain how you interpret the hand signals? What is that about, the gestures?
Yes, that's an excellent question. I would say that's another version of light language. Just as drawing or painting codes, some people dance. I'm sure there's all sorts of things they could do. Even if you're weaving material or something, you can encode what we call light language or soul language into what you're doing. And I have found that I embody it more. I embody light language more when I use my hands. I can also just do light language with my hands. So you might feel that, those of you who are sensitive, you might feel like right now I'm here at my heart chakra. I'm expanding. But you can do it without saying anything, and then touching my third eye. Is anyone feeling that? You may or may not be. So I think what I'm getting right now is I'm helping people remember what it's all about. And so for me, my soul has indicated that using the hands helps us embody those frequencies of our soul more easily, more deeply, and we tend to remember more. Oh, thank you, Denise. Yes, and Denise, who just said, yes, she was feeling it. She's an amazing poet. And I feel the codes just in her poetry. And so that's just written in English, but I still feel that light language encoded within whatever it is. And so for her, it's a lot of her written words.
Well, for me, I use hand gestures as well, but it feels like, for me, I'm getting an image of a box of mixed chocolates. So we are all individual in our taste, in our flavor, in our but we are all the same in this beautiful box of chocolates. That's how I interpret what happens when I speak language. I will get an image that will define sort of what I am actually speaking and bringing through. But for me, how do I say it? You know, when I think of reality, there is a grid that is at the very core of this world, this realm. And there are energy lines that run through everyone and everything. Sort of, I suppose, like you would say, the matrix, like the grid work, but it's not nefarious at all, what I'm referring to. And that I'm tweaking energy.
Yes.
So I'm altering the matrix. I'm altering the energies at their source. As is needed, either for the person I'm working with or just generally for reality, for this plane. So I sort of feel like I'm almost, in a way, like playing a guitar, but the strings are all over the place. So I'm plucking energy, shifting
Yes.
it, holding it. So I'm working on a different level sometimes when I'm using my light language.
Yes. Exactly. And ikushka lele ikutate and sakutohete. And when you do start speaking light language, and we all can, when you do start speaking, and I found people, when I'm helping them remember how to speak light language, when I say, oh, use your hands, they get it much faster. It's really interesting because they're embodying it. They're not just bringing it to the throat chakra, they're having it go through their body. And I have found that it's a little easier. And you're right, you are working at that quantum level in various realms and grids and whatever else that you're working on, timelines sometimes, in different people's fields, if appropriate. One cool thing I found is I will notice, just like I notice that I'm speaking different dialects, I also notice that sometimes my hands make certain gestures that I wouldn't normally make. Sometimes I would just use 3 fingers. And I don't normally make this sign. And so I think that's one of my soul aspects, or a certain, it comes in with the frequency that I'm speaking, but it'll be very specific hand gestures. And it makes me think of a being that looks different for me. That's what it makes me think of.
Yes. And you have called your YouTube channel Hathor Healing Connections. Who are the Hathors? I think of them as being connected to Venus. I don't know if that's correct.
The frequency feels very similar to Venus. I don't usually go there, but yes, it feels very similar to Venus. I know Tom Kenyon has written the most about the Hathors, probably, or is one of the ones. He's written a couple books on the Hathors on his channel. They work a lot with sound energies, and they're an intergalactic race of beings who are very old. And but mostly I know them just from what they've shared with me. And one of my soul aspects is a Hathor being. Senyo honya satia, shasha shanyo se, so ishino aranadana titera, se udotina, se injohunoto, se otetai. And I know people think a lot about Hathor, the goddess Hathor in Egypt.
Yeah.
And And I know different people have different belief systems about those, but the what's been shared with me or my soul, the interpretation I've gotten from my soul has just been that the Hathor beings were present in Egypt. And I was one of those who was there for a little while. And so it's a and we all look, pretty similar as this extraterrestrial race of beings showing up. In Nasikota, and one of my good friends, she's seen us there, and she has said we would just take a step. It would be like we were in the sand, and we'd take a step, and we'd suddenly be in the different dimension. And we were there the whole time. They just couldn't always see us. And not everyone could see us, but quite a few people could see us. And we just worked with the folks there. So that's my remembering. Isaholetata was being in Egypt for a little while. Certainly when I was there, it was not being heavily worshipped as a goddess type of thing. It was more helping and working with the peoples and just being around and sharing a higher vibration. So I think I was there earlier on before like all the temples and things were built. But and that doesn't mean to say there wasn't also a goddess and everyone connects with them. It's just, I'm just sharing my soul experience and the information I've received. It doesn't negate anyone else's experience, which is what's beautiful.
Yeah. Idoriashtikimia, Sakatariashesikanyan Kike Bitosteyanikea. Hidriatisa, Koreatetsa Kombotori Tika, Hedudrianaka. So there were lots of different beings that have assisted at various times on this plane, and added their knowledge, added their energies to this entire journey. Abritika, Tetia, Saporiache, Ekukanyana Kike, Ezutianaka.
Yes, and I have seen that the Hathors in general try to keep a very respectful distance. They will work through like an individual like this. So it'd be interesting to see if anyone's seen a Hathor being walking around in a long time. Some people do see beings, but I've seen them kind of step back for a while. But they've been more present too. But they work with a lot of beautiful sound energies, which is maybe one of the reasons I like singing so much.
And actually, would you do some singing for us now? If you have a look at Becky's YouTube channel, many of it is singing. So you have a beautiful voice.
Oh, thank you. Sure. It's really interesting what I end up singing, and it all just seriously, I will just get the feeling, oh, I should record a video, and I don't know if I'm going to be speaking or singing. So generally they're not prepped at all. I just hold up a phone or set up a phone and then I just go. So it's really interesting to channel a song when you don't know what's coming next. It's like all channeling, but it's even more challenging sometimes when there's a song and you're like, I want this to at least sound somewhat like melodic. Okay, so let's see. Inshoda Halia Naisi, Umshona Halia Yonu, Inshua na Halia lahana so. Shaya shaya hanu. Itua la Halia suhonayo. Ishua tohore isoro. Inshora holaya tikinayo. Isea sea tanahaitu. It's
It's so beautiful. It's
oh.
in the tone of the toning, the sound, as well as in the words. It's gorgeous.
Oh yeah, thank you. It's fascinating to me that I feel very connected in with like a divine mother, divine feminine collective. And so a lot coming through there that way. But many times I channel a lot of like lullabies. I feel like this is a funny thing to say, but I feel like my soul has gone around the universe collecting lullabies. Which is, people collect all kinds of things, but that's what I feel like my soul likes to use those at least because it helps people get in that beautiful inner child comfort, safe, happy place, and they remember, and then their heart opens, and then they receive more. I think that that's one of the reasons I sing the lullaby so much, is because it helps take people to that place of remembering being loved and cherished by spirit, loved and cherished by their own mothers in whichever life.
If anything is needed on this planet, on this realm, it is something that is sweet and loving and caring, because people are just under so much stress. So I think you've been gathering them for this lifetime here to really help with those. And the lullabies are something that really does, as you say, connect you to your family. And so it would be connecting us. So when you sing one from this place, everybody that is connected to that place will start to remember. And then when you sing another one, so somebody has requested, do you have a lullaby? Sandy Christmas, do you have a lullaby?
I don't know. Let's see. Isho talelehino, isho tanadaisu, isho tonotua mahale, isho lesito, isaya nasaya, isho mai hane, isua leleyo, Isu hayate, Isu, Isu, Isu amahane, Isu atai shahaino, Isu atai hare. I've never sung that one before. Like they just come. They're so beautiful. Tasito tanika chicheto tata sesasa. The ones from Lemuria really hit people a lot. And itsukuchukumachicha, so many, like you said, so many people remember the melodies, because a lot of times melodies transcend dialects, and we see that on earth too, like how many versions of happy birthday are there in different languages, right? But it keeps that same melody, and so they'll remember the melody even if they don't recognize those individual syllables in the song. Yes, he says I need to make an album, a CD. Yes, and maybe
also said, Hippie said, your singing is beautiful. It just made me cry. I've just lost my mother. And Hippie's one of the moderators. So that's a healing that happens.
It is.
When you can get in touch with the emotion of the situation.
Yeah, so many. I'm always making people cry, but it's a beautiful, good thing. The other thing I love hearing about is when young children, like a parent will have me playing somewhere in the room or in their house, and a young child will come running to come hear the sound, and they'll just start dancing or singing along. I love when people sing with me. A lot of people will sing with me in light language. It's just it's so beautiful.
Mm, mm. Now, the other thing that Becky has, how I also interact with Becky is she's my BQH, Beyond Quantum Healing person. So I've had a session with her, and that is amazing. And I've had BQH before. That's the Dolores Cannon offshoot of how she takes people into their deeper aspect and talk to other thems in other nows, other versions of people, and find out what they need to heal, to progress, to whatever it is. But when we did it, I moved into my super consciousness or my deeper aspect, and you did too. And we were talking. So Jo and Becky sort of stood aside, and then there was this conversation, both in light language and in English, and it was the most amazing experience. How long have you been doing regression work? Because in a way, it's sort of regression.
It is a regression, yeah. I don't know, 2-3 years. Maybe 3 years or so. And I got lots of practice with friends at first, and so we would do them. And it was funny. If you're used to channeling at all or doing this kind of work, you can go right into without having to go through a lengthy regression. But if you haven't done one before, there's pieces that can help you go deeper to access your subconscious. But it's fascinating that folks who are used to channeling, used to seeing things and interacting with things, then, you could just be there in a minute. Or you can have someone guide you through it, and it's really helpful. I like the Beyond Quantum Healing, the BQH, and it's really the same as QHHT. It's just QHHT has to be in person. That's the stipulation. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same, except BQH kind of encourages you to use it in your healing modalities. Like combining healing modalities is perfectly fine and encouraged because we're all individuals. And so, for instance, I do use light language a lot in my regression sessions. Just sometimes it just comes out. It's part of the healing, right? And I don't need to get in the way and think about, oh, she needs healing on this, this, and this. I just allow my higher self and our teams, our healing teams, to come through and work on whatever it is, which is really nice. But sometimes I found the light language can help remove blocks, can help pull someone a little bit deeper who's having trouble. Sometimes if a past life or memory is particularly upsetting, there's resistance to even going there. And so I found using light language in the middle of those sessions can open that up. Yes. And so it's a very helpful tool as well during those sessions.
Yeah. When I began as a healer before I ever got light language, and I never thought to combine the two because I was so unfamiliar with light language. I didn't know, when I first started speaking, I didn't even know what it was. And as I would work on my healing, in would come this language, and I would say, oh, just let me know if this is okay. And I would start speaking light language. And then when I began to incorporate it into the inner child healing, it actually helped clear the blocks. As you say, it talks to the soul, it talks to a different aspect than the head that might be a bit resistant to going there, to facing that stuff. And so it circumvents your ego, circumvents your, no, don't go there. And you can have an amazing sort of release or shift. And also, as I say, working with the energies of the body to release, like playing, it's like playing a guitar strings, playing it. And in that playing and strumming of those energy chords, and ley lines within the body, it's sort of, I see it as being releasing and like a cloud, and all of the denseness and things, so that when the strings come back, they're pure and they're clean and they're whole.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's so beautiful. Andio para kali kakarikurishkere. Kakikunuku tatatiata. Sha sha sha. I often do sha 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 for like a light clearing. Sha sha sha. Sindo trote dali ingoku kare noshke kotate. Ta 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 ta. So to 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 to. That's a clearing I do too. I'm an air sign. I clear a lot through blowing isaholete, or you might see me yawn. I also yawn a lot when I'm clearing, but that tells me what's happening, and it's really helpful for me as the healer to kind of, even though I'm allowing all these things to happen, I kind of want to know what's going on too, and I don't always, but I don't have to. I've learned to trust my soul and my higher self to take care of things, but it is nice to know what's going on. Or if I'm given like a Reiki session or something or an intuitive healing session, I tend to mix a lot of modalities, just whatever comes through intuitively. The light language can help me, just general information coming in, but also some of those cues of, oh, there's something clearing here, et cetera, can really help me stay, as a human, stay in tune with what's going on as well. Because once you start working intuitively all the time, there's a lot going on at the quantum level that my little brain, if I were trying to think about it all or process it all or manage it all myself, I would just get in the way. And so I've learned to just allow myself to be multidimensional and kind of step out of the way of my human brain.
Yeah, it's pretty instinctive for me as well. I don't always know what I'm actually saying. But I do, as I said, sometimes I get an image, sometimes I get a phrase, and I just allow and trust. Like I've sort of really become, I trust 100% what comes through and why and when. And it has such an interesting effect, and it's really, really powerful. And it's so amazing, the light language, when I started to speak it, because it was for me direct evidence of something so incredible, something greater than I could ever conceive. Like I had understood a lot of things and learned a lot of things over my life, and had other experiences, but the light language was something altogether different that pushed open a huge door into some other reality that most people are not aware of.
That's right. Well, and I have found it the most useful tool in my spiritual journey. I mean, hands down, it has been. I mean, it can help you just work on yourself. It can help you work with others. It can help you do all sorts of things. So I can just ask. A lot of times it just happens. It'll just kind of come out like you're getting downloads or information about how to be your best self in a given moment, and it'll just like automatically flow out of my mouth, and then I just feel more realigned. I'm like, oh, I'm working on I'll suddenly find myself speaking and doing something around my throat, and then the awareness comes afterwards. Oh, I'm clearing my throat chakra. I didn't even realize I needed to clear my throat chakra, but being connected to the other aspects of my soul, my higher self, etc., I can allow them to work with me and to kind of help keep me on track a little easier. So again, I don't have to think as much about it, and which is really handy.
Well, I often say that light language is first and foremost for me, to help me my evolution, and clear things and to shift frequencies and to move me from one, say, emotional state into another. It just is a most amazing thing for me. And it just so happens that I use it on other people as well and do all the videos. But it's for my evolution most foremost, I reckon.
I've made jokes before, and I'm not sure if they're real jokes or not, but I have joked around that some days I speak light language more than English around the house. Just it just all depends. But it flows so effortlessly for me now, which is also beautiful. I don't have to it reminds me of, taking the moment to sit and meditate in the 5-10 minutes or half an hour to meditate versus you're kind of walking around in a meditative frequency all the time. And so it's kind of like I've gotten there, not always, but enough that it's always available. And I think it helps keep me in those higher frequencies all the time as a general rule of thumb. Not always, but generally it does help me. And if I'm having a bad day, Halia, I can much more easily come back to center where I am, take a walk outside, the light language starts flowing, and then I'm back and aligned again. It's amazing how quickly you can start shifting and maintain the frequency that you really want to maintain.
Yeah, it's on tap with me too. It's like, and I remember one of the first times I was cleaning my my house and there was a podcast on, and I'm sort of half listening to the podcast as I'm cleaning. And at one point, some light language came through to comment on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I didn't know why. I didn't understand, but obviously I'm now this sort of open channel listening to the podcast, and somebody, some being, some aspect of me said, well, that's interesting. Why don't you go and try that? You know, it was so unexpected. So there's a couple of people in this reality, and that is really the truth. There's more than we can see right here, right now. There's all different levels.
I was watching a TV show one time. I don't even remember now what it was. It might have been, it was something that had a historical bent to it, but not really. I don't know, like Witcher or something. I don't remember now. I haven't seen that much of that show, but something where they were traveling around the countryside, and it was like I knew it. And I had all kinds of commentary. I like sat up and I was like, blah, 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 blah. And then I've done it before, and it would make me cry. Like, oh my gosh, I forgot what Scotland looked like in the in the 1600s. And that's not really what they called that castle then. Or, I mean, it was really funny to feel that version of me come back up and have commentary on what I was seeing. It was really cute. But sometimes things have come up to be healed too, right? Sometimes, you might watch the cartoon Atlantis and then suddenly have some feelings you need to deal with. And light language or other things can help explain why you suddenly burst into tears and what you need to do with it.
Yeah, I sometimes will go back and listen to my old videos.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And listen, maybe, like 5 or 10 videos and watch them, and it shifts my frequency. So I know that I am, in a way, really fortunate to have this gift.
Yes. E koshika koga jasindota se sa oto horika kindoi she otate ho orita se ikukuntate. And they're saying it's really nice because when I say they, it's like my soul aspects. By the way, I mostly channel myself. I have found I stay in my lane and I don't have issues at all when I just channel myself. Every once in a while, I will work with a group, but even when I do, I feel like one of my soul aspects is part of that group already. So they're already kind of vetted, and I'm in alignment with them at some level somewhere. And so, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I want to now channel this person or that person or this collective. Every once in a while they'll come to me, but into my awareness, but then it's up to me if I want to. But for the most part, my soul's like, I have so many soul aspects and so many versions of me. Why, like there's enough to fill many lifetimes of just exploring and enjoying that. And then that keeps me right in the right frequency of what I want to anchor in here and who I want to be. So now I forget why I was bringing that up. Oh, they were saying sometimes the light language is directed like just for myself and for an activation for myself or healing for myself or whatever it is. And sometimes it can be more for the collective. As you know, like when you decide to do a group video with light language, there's a lot of different frequencies, and it's really cool. It's like all quantum packaging, and there's different layers and levels, and different people will pull out whichever piece is for them, and it doesn't all have to be the same. A lot of times we think, oh, it just has one meaning. When in reality, a lot of times it's ultra packaged. Like we can't even realize how many layers there are. And this is why you might watch something one time and get one level from it. Go back a year later and watch it again, and you might get 2 or 3 different layers out of it that's relevant for you. That's what they want me to share.
That's why I recommend people go back and listen to them a couple of times. Even when people have a session with me, a healing session, go back, and even if you just listen to the light language again and again, it drops and you get different aspects, different facets of the diamond. It's like a diamond, and you will see one facet one time, one facet another time, and it has a different effect each time you watch it. So absolutely, it's not just one thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like maybe we were talking about this before we went live, but a lot of times I'll go back and listen to something I channeled or did, and I'm so shocked. I'm like, that happened? Like I'm stepping aside so much sometimes that I really don't remember well what happened in the event or the regression or whatever until I rewatch it, or if I took good notes. I've had friends say, "Oh, I've really asked your guides to help you remember more," because it's frustrating. We talk about all these things, and then you don't remember because you were channeling so much during our interaction. It's and I think that has improved.
Yeah. Kutariachetsa kumbutoriesti standea kuetsaka. Kigekatianda botestu stastine kikatia takana. Bebetia tujam zakiata. Kike sise uja umbatio tukoyonuko.
Iya no hueche shahanjo, shashan jokota dikashe takanjo iskimo zizakan iske uskutna, si iskin guguch kineata, zun o fokashashashai, si verekin no papa, lele irukun jecha hento, nijugovun adekia a shasha, in suhuru tuta tanika kuku nukolale era tatata, se tushkuna. I think they're talking about all the amazing inner child work that you do as a teacher and a way shower into the Syrians, because they're the big teachers of the universe. So they're honoring you as your teacher self. And thanking you for the beautiful work that you do.
I know I've been a teacher many times. It's really a familiar vibe for me to talk and to explain. I'm a good explainer. Ubretikaya zate zikandaya tutatia zande bitikana. Yes, it's deep within the DNA, and not just the human parts of the DNA, in the intergalactic aspects of the DNA. Bubati sinakmuka. Sediatsuchit sakataria she sekanyananakika. Ebitia. Suse shia sukanyananakika batoriasha. Kiatsa sasa. Sasa 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 sasa.
Yes. Yes, and so that is another beautiful use of light language, is just smoothing all those things like you were just doing. And so, because we're getting all these different frequencies, we're getting upgrades, we're getting downloads, where you might be practicing this light language and that light language, and sometimes you just need to smooth it all out. And so they're not separate anymore, they're more integrated. And so I think part of what Jo was doing anyway was talking about that smoothing effect and how that can keep things flowing more simply and easily in your life. So I do a lot of that smoothing. I think you were reminding me. You probably do too.
Well, when I'm doing a live or a video, I can feel sometimes when it's too much for people watching, or it's bringing up stuff for people. So I will move the energy to try and shift the audience's perceptions, or what it's bringing up in the audience or the people that watch it. And there isn't any time. So I'm feeling the overall energy of the people who watch the video, and I can feel at times when it's like when it's a bit rough, as you say, it's a bit confronting, or it's a bit jarring, exactly. And so I will work in the middle of doing a video sometimes to smooth it out so that it's more the word that comes is palatable.
Yes, exactly. And that's the nice thing about light language. I know Jo and I both talk about interpreting, or at least sharing an interpretation of a lot of what we say, which is not necessary, and it can be helpful though, because we like to know. But the nice thing about light language is if you just open your heart and listen, and instead of trying to understand, even more comes in. It's like going into that meditative state we were talking about. It's you're in a place of receiving. So that inner work can happen more easily and seamlessly.
Yes. Don't listen, or try not to listen how you would normally listen to somebody talking to you. It is a slight step. I sort of think of it as a step to the right or a step to the left into a slightly different frequency. And it's sort of an open state, and you just allow the energy of the words to flow. There's no absolute need to interpret it. It's really about feeling. And I've said this before, that the language of God, or the language of Source, or the language of the all in all is emotion, is feeling. Because we each have a different language that we speak in this realm. But the one language we all know is love, or we know all of the emotions, and that's a commonality amongst all of us. And it sort of translates to higher frequencies as well, that you would communicate more through how you're feeling in a moment, and that feeling is interpreted and felt by a person you're communicating with. So when you're hearing light language, allow it to drop in. Don't worry so much about what's going on in your head and trying to interpret it. You might understand, and some people do. There are some people who do. I've seen a few people who can sort of interpret it almost word for word, but that's certainly not me. I really try to get out of my own way. I try to step aside and allow that deeper aspect of me to come through. Ibataya ste kuitena. She did the ongati beti and dakaye te tuye. He done the stuke seota, 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 like the choir of angels. Abati and the tu de teaka, aretia. It's sort of transcendent at that level.
E o tohi ne skola li alala e koko ni tatea. Unsho tori karia nota lalali I regrantera. Kor ore tatiara. Sho sesan e tohletae. Sese e koko talele ikara inota tete. Sometimes speaking in English or whatever language, also they're saying it's like an echo though. And so it's kind of hitting you at two levels. And so there's the soul level and then giving you just little tidbits to think about, to remember, but there's no right or wrong. It's all beautiful and it's all accessible by everyone. And you'll know whose light language you're drawn to. A lot of times it comes up, people will say, oh, I can't stand that one, and I really like this one. Well, guess which one is your soul family? It's pretty obvious, right? It's the one you're drawn to. And sometimes you don't like what someone's talking about because there's a trauma in your past that's related to it. And you're not ready to work on that. And that's fine. These things, when you are ready, you'll be attracted to it, to work on it. I've known folks who were determined to watch any and every light language video they came across. Yeah. And they kind of got themselves in trouble because it overwhelmed their system. Their human self said, I'm going to do it all. And I'm going to jump in the deep end of the pool. And no matter what it is, I'm going to go through it. Well, then they crashed and burned and couldn't even stand to look at it for 6 months or a year, right? Because it like swamped their system. So listen to your inner guidance. Your guidance said, I like this one, not so much today. And follow that. Sometimes resistance is there for us to look at, but and my soul tends to like to keep things smooth and flowing, not the galactic roller coaster can be a bit much.
Yeah. And how can you give people watching a little bit of a taste about how you help people bring forth their own light language? How would you go about that?
Yeah, my soul taught me how to do it effectively, and I'm still learning. So a lot of people's light language or soul language ends up activating automatically, just on their own sometimes, or if they've heard other people speaking it, like mine did. Some people will watch light language videos for years and they still don't speak any, and they don't have to. But usually I have found if someone is feeling that yearning to, or constantly drawn to watch it over and over, that may be signs that they're ready to speak it on their own or draw it or whatever it is that they're being guided to do with light language. So I tend to, it was interesting. At first, I would just do a single, like 1 hour session with someone to help them speak light language, and everyone always did. However, then my guide said, you need to start offering sessions of 3. And I was like, really? I didn't quite believe him. But I did it because I tend to follow the guidance that I'm given, even if I was skeptical. And sure enough, that worked out much better. Like folks would, I know a lot of people call it activating light language, and it kind of is, but it's not like, I'm more facilitating it to flow more easily. I'm facilitating some healing that happens during the process so that you get rid of blocks or heal some past life stuff that's kind of keeping you from speaking freely. So I tend to work at that quantum level to help everything flow more easily. Open up those channels a little bit more is what I tend to do. And when I work with a client, I've noticed my soul chooses a language that's relevant to them. Like say your higher self or one of your soul aspects that's on your team is from the Lyran star system, or you don't know that part, but you know you're attracted to Lyran art or Lyran frequencies. And so suddenly I find myself just speaking whichever one. And I often have them repeat after me quite a bit, and then gently encourage them to start speaking with me. And I think there's only been one person it was just more on the street, and she just wasn't right in the right headspace. And I was probably more excited about speaking to her with her in light language, and she wasn't really into it. So I think that's the only person who's never spoken once we were going. And again, she was just like, I don't really want to anyway. So I think if you're interested, it's right there. It's so easily accessible. And while people are speaking, as I said, I tend to use my healing modalities to heal, to open up things. I do find it fascinating that I think my soul likes to be efficient with the amount of time, because somewhere, it happens almost every single time. The person will start speaking their own dialects of light language in response. And with me, we're having a little conversation. And then I'll ask a hard question in light language. And so many times they'll go to answer and they can't say anything. It's caught right in their throat chakra. And when that happens, then I kind of laugh internally, because I'm like, oh, I knew that was a hardball question coming at you. And it is. It's like, because I know I'm asking in questions in light language and they're answering. And then I'll ask a hard question. Like these days, if I were to ask, oh, how's your relationship with your father?
Right.
Suddenly you're like, I don't want to talk about that. But working with your soul team, that's the one that they've identified that they do want you to work on and clear. And so I'll help clear that. And sure enough, then it starts flowing. And then it flows easily and smoothly. And so, it's really cool, but I'm also, I often laugh at my soul. It's like, oh, you asked the hard question again. Because it's a little unnerving to people when they're first starting, because they were just getting into the rhythm of it. And then suddenly they're like, oh, wait, but that's a good learning experience too. And I think my soul likes to teach during my sessions. And just to explain that it's nothing bad. It just means there's some stuff to clear out of the way.
Right.
Yeah. Isoho.
Okay. So as somebody on a spiritual journey, what would be some advice that you would give people about how to navigate this world that we're living in?
Be in nature. You guys have heard all these things, like, and they're so common because they're so helpful. Be in nature as much as possible. Just even breathing in that air, going for a walk can just bring you back to yourself. Grounding as much as possible. And you can do it inside or outside, but the more you can be outside or barefoot, or if it's cold out, I even go out in socks sometimes if it's super cold. Just it really helps. Be mindful of where you are spending your time. If you're spending 6 hours watching war movies, guess what frequency you're going to be in every day?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're same for politics or whatever it is, where you are placing your energies and attention, those are the frequency, and you're playing in certain frequencies, that's kind of where your energy body is going to be drawn to those.
Yeah.
So just be mindful. Is this really the frequency I want to be in? So the more time you spend in the frequencies where you really want to be, the more you're going to be able to stay there more easily. And it's not closing your mind off to all those things happening. But if you're going to be the way shower of where you want us to go, the way shower of how you'd like the earth to be, you kind of need to stay there. In that frequency where you want us to go. Like if you're going to be the front runner, then you have to be the front runner. So so it all depends on what you and your soul want to be in your journey. There's not one size that fits all. Everyone is choosing the journey that they want, both at the soul level and the human level. So there's no judgment about any of it. However, my soul always says, like, if you want something, kind of what I said just before, if you want to be a way shower in a certain field, then you need to figure out what that actually looks like and how to stay in that frequency best. Because the more time you spend doing certain activities or reading things or looking at things, that's actually the frequency you're anchoring in.
Yeah. It's a very simple phrase, but follow the path of joy. What is it that brings you joy? And that helps you reach that different. So, or spend a good portion of your day thinking, what do I really want to do in this moment? And what can you find joy? Can you reach for joy? Can you do something that brings you joy? And that's really a fantastic vibe to maintain throughout your day.
Yeah, and my guides have even said, even if you don't especially love your job that you have to do to make money to pay the bills, where can you find joy in that job? What parts of it can you reframe in your mind so that you're looking at an Excel spreadsheet or a computer, and yet you can be in that joyful energy, even though. So you might just be listening to some higher vibrational music while you're doing your job, or whatever it is. Just try to spend more time in those higher vibrations if you can, if that's where you want to be.
Yeah, and to focus on what you do have and not on what you don't have. So
absolutely.
it's just, again, it's where do you put your focus? If it's always, well, I wish it was this way, it shouldn't be that way. But if it's something is great in your life and you focus on what is great and what is working, what is joyful, it just changes your frequency and draws more of those experiences to you.
Yeah, the gratitude piece that you were just talking about. Yeah, that's really critical. The other part my soul talks about a lot, which is really interesting, is that we want to, by and large, a lot of us want to see the earth shifting to some new paradigms. And you all know that if you want to shift something internally, you a lot of times need to let go of some stuff first, and then you can grow in the direction you want to. So you might say, I release these old thought patterns or something, and then you'll see some growth and heading the direction you want to head. Well, the same is kind of true for society. It's true for yourself, but they often say we have to let go of these old stories, the old stories we tell ourselves, even our old histories. If you want to create space for the earth to change, for yourself to change, and for the earth to change, and for the collective, you kind of have to start letting go of some of the old stories. You don't have to let go of the lessons learned. And all those old stories are stored in the Akash, say. They're still there. They're not going anywhere. But the more you retell those stories over and over and over to yourself, guess what frequency you're going to stay in? Oh, my friend betrayed me, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened when I was young. The more you tell those stories, guess where you're going and spending all your time and energy? You're going to where it happened, and that's the frequency you're staying in. But when you do the inner work and you heal it, and then you let the story fall away and you don't repeat it to yourself or to others, you start leaving it behind and you raise your frequency. So my soul talks about letting go of those old stories so that we can change. Until we let go of them, we're kind of stuck there. And this is the hard one. Of letting go of these stories. Because it was our self-identity.
Yeah, I define it like when you have, say, a pantry or a closet, you're trying to put new thoughts or new energies in an old closet that's full of old stuff. You have to sort of clear the shelves. You've got to clear it out, let it go, put it in the garbage, put it away, put it, and then you can put the love in there. Then you can put the positivity or the abundance or the whatever it is. While you're walking around with your closet full of old stuff that you're talking about, that you're referring to and thinking about all the time, there's no room for the new energy.
It reminds me of the KonMari tidying method, which is really good. I've loved doing that myself, and she talks about you pick up every single thing that you have in your house and you ask the question, does this bring me joy? And if the answer is not yes to that very simple question, does this bring me joy? You let it find, you thank it, and you let it find a new place to live, be it in the trash or someone else's home or whatever it is. And and when you do that with clothing, and I think clothing is usually what she recommends doing first. It's a little bit easier for most people. You go through every single thing you own. You lay out all the shirts and you look through all of them, and you only keep the ones that bring you joy. And the first time I did this, and others have done it, like you get rid of 3/4 of your clothing, like you've just accumulated stuff. But the fascinating thing is, and you're just like, whoa, like I have so much little stuff, but you love all of it. the fascinating thing is the next time you go shopping or you come across something, you know exactly, it's much easier to tell what brings you joy. So you're more likely to only bring things in that bring you joy. And it's a very similar concept with this, the energy and the stories we tell ourselves. Does that story bring you joy? Is it time to let it go so that you can bring more stories in that do bring you joy, more activities in your life that bring you joy?
Yeah. That's a very perfect, beautiful analogy. Does that thought, that thing that you go back to, bring you joy, or does it make you feel uncomfortable or sad or angry? And if it does, don't think it. Let it go as much as you can and find a thought that does bring you joy.
Right. Yeah, sometimes we just need reframing too. Like I hate work. Well, do you really hate every single thing about work? Maybe there's some other things you could say about work, that are more, I don't know. It's not just a blanket statement. Or maybe that tells you something about the job you have.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time for a new job. So it's kind of when you clear away all that stuff, you can see what's happening, or you can see, I really have some things left over from my first marriage I still need to work on. And maybe you can work on it by yourself. Maybe you reach out to someone to help you with that, or a friend. When you clear out a bunch of stuff, it helps you direct where you need to spend your time.
I actually want to do a little shout out to everybody that's in the chat. Labels 369, you're actually clearing out your closet big time. Sometimes it's the macrocosm of the microcosm. When you're doing it physically in your world, it's a reflection of a readiness to do it inside your being. And I would look at it that way, as something, have a look at it at a deeper level. Are you ready to let stuff go on in your life as well? Jamal, hello, Jamal. Jillian. Let's have a look. Linda J. Hi, Linda. And H is with us. Are you still with us, H? I'm glad you made it. Okay. So we have been going now for just an hour and 20 minutes approximately. Is there anything you would like to say in closing, Becky?
Let's see. I'm seeing us just all take a moment and imagine we're all around the world, and just imagine a nice group of us just kind of holding hands through the ethers and just in circle, coming together in presence and honoring one another for being here, and honor how much we all give and how much we all do for one another, whether we realize it or not. Sometimes just showing up is huge. Sometimes a smile is huge. It can change someone's whole day. So I'm just seeing, as we imagine this beautiful circle of souls around the earth, whether they be now during the live stream or later, you're all part of this. And I want you to thank yourself. for all the wonderful things you're doing.
Mm.
And breathe it in through your nose and out through your mouth, and let that anchor in. Just that gratitude to yourself that you are showing up and you are doing your work, and you are just have compassion for yourself that you are actually making a difference. Because my soul sees you, and we all see each other, and we all have gratitude for each other. And I hope you feel that. And just remember, you're not alone. We're out here, and those who need help, there are those who can help. And we all need help at different times. And I'm sensing a blessing for you each to find more members of your soul tribe to help you feel more secure in your reality, in your approach, in your beliefs, in your way of navigating the world, and to help you be your best self. Kohono da 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 di da tinhana da di da da ti hini do ta da da hire da are e ro ada da 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 hara ale ki ya na 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 ki ya na 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 aha ho sho ho 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 sa o o o sho 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 sho. There was a little throat clearing in there for some who have been afraid to reach out to those they felt attracted to at the soul level. Da, 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 da. But it never hurts to just ask. Koronatete, da, 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 da. Reach out and say hi. Kingo koteta diera, da, 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 da. They're not open to it. That's okay. Kikukutata. Some of them will be. Kanohole de ta sheshahora ankukuhoretete, da, da, de. And the more we come together, and the easier our journeys will be in the long run. Thank you.
So I would like to bring through some energy, some language to help open heart centers, heal bruised souls, bruised hearts, so that we do feel more open to connecting. Areti zatorieshin zaka imbe torieshin naka. Etushta kia zeta zetu kambati hareti jenda kriatarakika. Hanyononoyo toriotia. Hanyononoyo toriati ebiati. Kayatia sutaya. Dea turesha. And take a breath into your heart. Abrati shesasa. Kriati sasa. And another. Ujeteriasi ambakuriata. Ienaka. Ienaka, Ienaka, Uretianaka, Ujana. So, thank you so much, everybody that popped by and said hello. I honor you completely for your path, your journey, and your love and your contribution to this plane.
Thank you all so much. And thank you, Jo, for hosting and allowing me time and space to share a little of my journey. Feel free to reach out if anyone feels so guided. I love working with folks. It's always very healing and usually very joyful. I wish you all well on your journeys.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.